The Wing Gundam deck is currently an absolute powerhouse, as we have seen it top many events based on results, as well as winning many of them as well. The deck features green units, which includes Wing Gundam, deathscythe, as well as Wing Zero, and the game plan is to ramp up resources to get a level curve ahead of your opponents, and that is with the intention so that it can drop big bodies in the later stages of the game. As soon as you reach level 8, that is where you start hard dropping Wing Zeros to nuke the entire board against anything that is level 5 or lower by dealing 3 damage to them. Since the green base of the deck focuses on ramping and scaling, it is really important to ensure that you survive the early game stages, especially against aggressive decks. And that is exactly why the color white is perfect to fill in that gap with a ton of blockers. So let's go ahead and begin talking about the build, starting with the level 2s, which I'm running 3 copies of Zawart, which is a early game blocker that you want to establish as soon as possible. It has 3-2 stats, which is really good at trading against medium-sized bodies in the early stages, and really good at attacking as well, but keep in mind you cannot attack into the opponent's base or shields, but if the opponent ever has a rested unit, that is exactly where you have the choice to attack into them and start going for trades. Level 3s, as we continue with blockers, 4 copies of Gundam Lefrith is a must, simply because it's one of the best early game blockers right now in the game with 2-4 stats. Since itself has 4 HP, this is where you can tank in multiple attacks in the early stages against any of your opponent's units that has low AP. But as for the other level 3 that you want to see as much as possible during the course of the game as well, is Wing Gundam Bird Mode. This is because when you deploy, you instantly get to gain an additional EX resource, which can help you increase your levels and ramp up your resources to play out bigger bodies sooner rather than later. Next, for level 4s, I'm running 2 copies of Sword Strike Gundam, which is mainly intended to be linked together with Kira so that we can gain its link effect as we attack to bounce 2 HP or less units that the opponents have back to their hand. I established before in my other videos on how important it is to go with tempo. Although bouncing may not seem as good as a removal tool at the moment, but being able to stop the opponent's lower level units from attacking for one whole turn matters a lot, and survivability is really key and important, especially when it comes to this Wing Zero deck. Now let's talk about level 5s, which I'm playing 4 copies of AL Strike Gundam, which is also one of the current best blockers to have in the mid-game stages. You want to pair a level 4 pilot with it at the right time in order to bounce your opponent's 4 HP or less units back to their hand. And keep in mind, this effect is mandatory, so you want to be careful on when you want to pair together with it. Otherwise, you want to link Kira together so that it can take down the opponent's bodies by reducing its AP as well, ensuring that your AO Strike survives the battles as you take down the opponent's units. Otherwise, this is great for making lethal attacks to bounce your opponent's blockers back to their hand as you go for the game-winning play. That's it for the level 5. Now for the level 6s, which I'm running 4 copies of Gundam deathscythe. This is your secondary resource ramping tool that you want to get into after bird mode, because this will give you a rested resource when you pair a Operation Meteor pilot alongside with it. You also gain first strike for the turn so that you can deal damage to your opponent's unit before actually taking damage to deathscythe itself, making it very good for instant trades. That is where you really want to link together with Dual Maxwell at the same time so that you can attack immediately the same turn you play this card out. And then for the other level 6, which is actually one of the main boss units that you play in this deck, is Wing Gundam. It has Breach 5 so that it can deal 5 damage to the opponent's base as you take down the opponent's unit, or take out one of their shields if they don't have a base instead. Keep in mind, Breach still happens even if Wing Gundam was destroyed during the battle as well. And on top of that, Wing Gundam can attack over your opponent's units that are level 4 or lower even if they were active, making it incredibly advantageous to take down bodies and gaining momentum during the course of the game, especially when you link it with Hero, buffing its stats all the way to 7 AP and HP. But that is not all for Wing Gundam, because like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this deck mainly focuses on ramping to bring out your Wing Zero, which is the level 8 card, and I'm running 4 copies of it as a must. If your opponent ever has multiple units that are level 5 or lower with 3 or fewer HP, this is where you will drop this card and start nuking the board. But keep in mind, this also affects your own board, so you want to make sure that you exhaust your own level 5 or lower units first. Itself also has high maneuver, meaning it can't be blocked, being one of the strongest bodies to play around any Freedom or Unicorn blocker based decks. The fact that it's got 7 HP makes it incredibly beefy, where not a lot of decks out there can take it out with one single swing. And oftentimes it requires your opponents to commit multiple bodies in order to trade against it. That's it for all of our units. Now let's talk about our pilots, with the main one being the 4 copies of Hero. Optimally, you want to make sure that you're linking it together with your bird mode or wing Gundam or even wing 0 so that you're gaining the additional 1 AP and HP. The secondary pilot is Dual Maxwell, which I'm running 3 copies of, which is mainly intended to help you link together with deathscythe so that you can gain the link ability to attack that same turn, first strike against your opponent's units, and also gain the AP reduction immunity against your opponent's effects. And as for the third pilot, since we play white base cards along with the strike packages, it makes sense to include Kira, which I'm running 4 copies of, which is intended to go for value trades as we attack into the opponent's units to reduce their AP at the same time, and also providing our strike Gundams to attack immediately the turn they were played. That's it for all of the pilots, and now for the command cards, starting with one of the best staples currently in the game, which you definitely want to run this as a 4 of, which is Overflowing Affection to help you get the draw power that you need and cycle through and find your pieces. Aside from just playing your own unit blockers out there, there's also Striker Pack, which I'm playing 2 copies of to enable us to play out our blocker unit tokens. We have the versatility to choose to play out a Sword Strike token with 4/2 stats, or a Launcher Strike Gundam with 2/4 stats, which is essentially another additional copy of Gundam Lefrith in the level 4 stages of the game, or otherwise with its burst effect, we get to play out an AO Strike token with 3/3 stats. And then to wrap up with the base cards, I'm running 4 copies of the Underground Desert base. As a level 2 1 cost base card, which has 6 HP, which is 1 more than most average base cards out there, that 1 extra HP matters a lot, especially when it comes to this deck. This ensures you to have additional health, and it requires most other decks to have a link unit in order to take it down in the first place. Tech choices and other cards that you guys can also include into this deck. Originally, I did play the command card, The Path to Victory or Defeat, which is fantastic to search and find pieces that you need for only 1 cost during level 5. That is mainly to help you grab any of the cards within the green side in order to go for big combos or link plays. But as I play tested more with this deck, I realized that the searching wasn't as necessary because surviving is way more important, and eventually as you draw over time, you would find cards that you need in order to make those plays anyways. And furthermore, this card doesn't search any of your white cards, which are going to be your blockers, which is way more important. Another base card you can include is Archangel, since you play a handful of blockers so that you can restand your blockers and also make out aggressive attacks at the same time if you ever want to. Or there's also another base card, which is Kusanagi. Even though this base only has 4 health, you can still bounce the opponent's unit with 3 HP or less back to their hand to slow down the momentums of their attacks. If you want to increase your level 5 blocker counts, you can also include Perfect Strike Gundam alongside with AO Strike as well. And if you ever want to surprise your opponents with action step traps, you can also include Unforeseen Incident to weaken the opponent's AP, to especially really combo well off together with your wing as you attack with hero together to breach and take down the units, and ensuring that your own units stay alive. Or if you want to extend your blockers to even higher levels, you can also include Freedom Gundam for the same reason. Combos and how to play the Wing Gundam deck. Let's talk about how you always want to be going second in this format. Just because of best of 1, you don't know exactly what the matchups you're facing are, so that you want to have your EX resource to help you curve better and faster. And the whole idea is you really need to have blockers established in the early stages of the game to help you sustain as you eventually ramp up to your big bodies, since this is a late game deck after all. So now let's talk about the mulligan hand, where you want to see Zawart and Gundam Lefrith as your early blockers. Overflowing Affection is always great to help you draw and cycle through cards. And when you hit level 4, that is where you can use Striker Pack to play out additional blocker tokens, and then use Underground Desert base whenever you need to if you lose your EX base, so that you can cycle, draw additional card off of your shield, and also have a 6 health base card to sustain for as long as possible. So let's assume you're going second, so you don't have the EX resource, but this deck is really good at ramping you that up anyways. This is what your level 2 play will look like as soon as possible, is to play out your Zawart. If you can, whenever, use Overflowing Affection if you don't have these cards to cycle through, to make sure that you're dropping out units on the board as well. Because as soon as you hit level 3, you want to use the 2 resource to play out Lefrith. And as well, if you have the extra resource to use another Overflowing, go for that as well. If not, you can always play Underground Desert base to establish there if your opponent has broken down your EX base already, but generally they wouldn't be able to, because if you exerted the Zawart and the Lefrith on the board already, you're stopping your opponent's attacks, and that's your main priority. You want to stall out the game as you continue to ramp up, because when you get to level 3, the other play that you can execute is actually playing out the bird mode. By playing out the bird mode, you instantly gain an EX resource to help you ramp up one extra level. This helps you get into level 5 in the following turn. And what does getting into level 5 help you is that it gives you and opens up your play to go for a AO strike, or if you ever have a choice, you can use the EX resource to go into Akira, or otherwise if you have additional bird modes, you will continue to play them out and get additional EX resource. This is one of the pivotal moments where if you do end up going second, this is where you can gain a lot of advantage, because if you're second, then you have 2 EX resources, and this actually puts you to level 6, where you can go for 2 different kinds of level 6 plays. One is you can go for the Wing Gundam combo, where you pay 4 to play out Wing Gundam, and then use one of the EX resources to link hero with it. And by doing so, this unit will be a 7 AP and 7 health, with you gaining the additional 1 AP and HP since it is linked. It has Breach 5, and you can take down one of your opponent's units that's level 4 or lower, even if it's active, so you can swing into that, breach, and take out some bodies to keep controlling the board from there. Otherwise, alternatively, if you're at level 6, instead of playing the Wing combo, this is where you can go for the deathscythe combo instead. And then for 1, again, using the EX resource, you get to go for dual Maxwell, and since you paired with a Operation Meteor pilot, you get to set a rested resource, putting you still continuing at level 6 right here. You also get first strike with Gundam Deathscythe, so you can immediately trade into a suspended body off there, and also during its linked, its AP can't be reduced by any of your enemy effects, whether it be a command card or any of the opponent's units effects as well. By taking out that unit, this helps you ramp up even further to help you reach into level 8, which is one of your most important curves during the course of the game. So now let's say you reach level 8, this is where the opportunity where you can go for the Wing 0 play. But before you ever do that, you want to make sure that you want to exhaust your units on the board first that are level 5 or lower, because Wing 0's effect does deal 3 damage across the entire board, including your opponent's and your own. This is where if you have anything to trade with Zawar, you can go attack the unit if you ever need to, or use Lafrith to attack into the enemy's base, or shields, Wing, same thing, and try to exhaust as many attacks as possible before you drop it out, because then you will start nuking your own boards. Otherwise, if your opponent ever played the trading game, and if they trade against you and got rid of your units, and they have a whole board with damaged units on the board that's level 5 or lower, simply play the 8 resource and immediately go for Wing 0 there to wipe everything out. You don't always necessarily need to have hero together to go for the attack the same turn to go for the link play, just because you ideally want to save the link combo for the Wing Gundam plays to go for the breach and attacks during those instead. This because itself already has high maneuver and is a very big body that's difficult to deal with. And in later stages of the game, once you reach again into another level 8 spot, this is where you can continue to play out even more additional Wing Gundams over and over and have your opponent try to deal against it. If they're not able to, that is where you start beating them down all their bases, taking out their shields, and that's exactly how you win and scale with this deck. If you want to support me and the channel even further, make sure to grab the first assembly collection on the AVAULT store right now, which has all the essential TCG accessories that you need to get started. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.